Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, with our main topic today. We're discussing the transformation of the COVID-19 to Delta, and also in light of the statements by Dr. Hala Zaid, Minister of Health, as she said on Monday that the coronavirus vaccines plant at the holding company for biological products and vaccines complex is planned to produce up to 24,000 packs per hour. The plant is set to be the biggest in the Middle East and North Africa for the production of the COVID-19 vaccines. Zaid also said during a tour of the complex with Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli, we are going to shed light on this, and also we are going to shed light on the coronavirus and its transformation to Delta with our dear guest this morning, Dr. Ramy Karam, Professor of Microbiology and Immunology at Cairo University and 57357 Hospital. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Well, Dr. Karam, could you give us your insight about the importance of the inauguration of this complex?
The vaccine production plants, yeah, it's so vaccines are now, well, they have always been, but especially now they are part of the national economy and national security of any country. So it's like food and weapons. So if you don't produce your own vaccines or your own food or your own weapons, you will always depend on other countries. So it is not just a health issue, but it's definitely a strategic and national security issues for any country. And a country of the volume of Egypt, of course, is not just for sale. You know, we don't even plan to just produce vaccines for the national for domestic use only, but Egypt is expected to cover many countries in Africa, in my opinion, and in the strategic plan. So it's a very good first step, but of course it needs to be followed with the registration of several vaccines coming from Egypt, which are also in the research pipeline, which will also be an additional asset for Egypt, especially that we are still, the entire world is still in the COVID pandemic. It has not ended at all. It's actually surprising that we are in August 2021. I was here maybe more than 1 year ago, and we were all hoping it will end in the summer of 2021, but sadly, we are still facing the pandemic.
Yes. So, Doctor, with the percentage that the Minister of Health have said that the complex is planned to produce up to 24,000 packs per hour. How do you see this?
This is the capacity. This is, of course, an impressive capacity for any pipeline. But again, it's important not just the capacity, but what will actually be produced and how many people will get the vaccine. That is, so translating this from production to administration, which means we really hope that a substantial percent of Egyptians will receive the vaccine. It's a factor of many things. It's a factor of economic availability, that's number one. But now the vaccines are available, how they are going to be distributed, and number three is how people are going. So sometimes, even in some rich countries now, the vaccines are being not just produced but overproduced, and there is not enough people taking them. So I hope we don't get into this. You know, I hope we will have at least 50% of the population vaccinated.
Yes, always the situation in Egypt is under control concerning the coronavirus since it started. So there are now several kinds of vaccines. So do you think that the Egyptian citizens have the free to choose any?
So
any of the
I don't think. Yeah, I don't know of. Maybe I don't know what happens in every country, but for all the countries.
I'm speaking about Egypt.
Right, but all the countries. That's what I want to say. All the countries I heard about, or I have actually had an experience with, people do not choose the vaccine.
Yes.
For example, unless it's both are available in the same place. So, for example, in the US, you can go to a place and register for a vaccine. If you go there and they have, for example, Pfizer and Moderna, they can give people choice, but usually they don't.
So the choice goes back to, for example,
the choice is
the elder people should not take very heavy.
So basically, the main rule is that any vaccine is better than nothing. So any vaccine will be much, much better than being exposed to COVID without any protection. That's number one rule. Then there are special cases. So for example, for elderly patients, people who have weak immune system, some vaccines are better than others.
Yes.
For example, in Egypt, Sinopharm has been like the first Chinese vaccine produced and
Yes.
approved. It has been recommended for elderly patients because the vaccine is inactivated, which means there is no any risk of overstimulating the immune system for elderly people or causing disease, for example. For some age sectors and some, for example, for women at some age, many countries have limited the use of the Oxford or the AstraZeneca vaccine because of, again, it's a very minor risk, but there were some health risks. So again, we shouldn't, so the Egyptian citizens shouldn't worry much about all these details, because once you go to the vaccines administration place. So when I went to get vaccinated, there were a doctor and a pharmacist, and both of them know everything about their vaccines. They asked me so many questions.
Yes.
For example, if somebody is taking an immunosuppressant drug, somebody is being treated from an immune disease or from cancer, taking chemotherapy, they will not recommend some vaccines. So we just have to trust the...
Yes, here in Egypt also they revise the medical report of every citizen before he takes the vaccine.
And so,
Yes.
so we should just, that's not the concern really. The concern is that having, as I said in the beginning, we need a substantial number of people to be vaccinated for the virus to start declining.
Yes.
In the entire world and in Egypt as well.
So could you explain more concerning, you've just said, doctor, that taking the vaccine is better than not taking the vaccine. Do you think it reduces
yeah, of
danger?
course. I mean,
How?
so I want to explain.
If a person is taking the vaccine and he caught the COVID, so it is going, for example, to make him take his medicine at home. And if not taking the vaccine, he may be transferred to the hospital, for example. Just give us your...
just to remind everybody, COVID is a disease that is caused by a virus.
Yeah.
However, the virus stays in the body for maximum 10 days, 1 week to 10 days. And after that, it becomes an immune disease. This is very important information. So COVID has 2 stages, the disease itself. In the beginning of the infection, it's a virus that is spreading like any other virus. And after that, the immune system causes a lot of things that you have heard about, including the respiratory collapse and sometimes blood clots and a lot of things.
Yes.
So the first rule, the golden rule, is any vaccine is better than nothing, you know. So some people were saying, oh, we are waiting for like... for example, I don't want to mention company names, but this company, I like its name, and I'm waiting for the vaccine to come to Egypt. This is very risky. It's better to take a vaccine now, and you can even take later, maybe in 6 months.
It's a new disease, so all the people, even the doctors
of course,
and
but
scientists,
this is, there is a hesitation.
The whole world is facing a new
there is
disease.
a hesitation, but it's very important to take any vaccine as soon as possible for anybody who has the opportunity. That's the golden rule number 1. So your question, so the vaccines have all been tested to prevent the disease, not to prevent the infection, and this is also a very important thing to explain.
Point.
So let's say I went to the bus now, I am in a bus, and somebody is sneezing, and this person has common cold, not corona or anything. It's very possible that I get infected, like the virus will come to my nose, but if my immunity is capable of handling this, or if I'm taking vitamin C, for example, regularly, usually you don't get the cold symptoms. That's an example. However, as I mentioned, for COVID has an immune component, which means sometimes 2 people that are exposed to the same condition, exactly, they're exposed to the same virus, so they're both infected. One of them will become very sick, will develop a disease, and the other will not. Again, it's a genetic factor.
Yes.
However, when you take the vaccine, all studies have shown the vaccine reduces the risk of disease so you can be infected, you can have the virus for 2 or 3 days, and then it goes away because you're already vaccinated and have the immune system. Other people may have overreaction. So as I told you, 2 people who are not vaccinated, one of them can go to the hospital and the other will have mild symptoms. If these 2 people are vaccinated, the one who will have mild symptoms will probably have no symptoms at all, and the one who would have gone to the hospital probably will have much milder disease. So the vaccine decreases the risk of disease, decreases the risk of hospitalization, and definitely the risk of death decreases. So the average risk of death with COVID-19 is 2 to 3% now. 2 to 3% of infected people will die, unfortunately. But if they are vaccinated, the risk is less than 0.5%. It's much less. And so I think maybe 3 billion, 2 billion people in the world, or 3 billion have been vaccinated already, at least one dose. So all the statistics are showing, yes, some people can be vaccinated and they may get the infection, but very, very few people who are vaccinated will go to the hospital, and very, very, very small. Everything is possible with these large numbers, you know. So again, the risk is very, very different. So if somebody is worried the vaccine may have side effects, COVID has much, much worse effects on people.
Yes.
And it's a very, nobody would gamble with their health. We shouldn't gamble with our health and say, I will just stay forever and try to protect myself. It's really important to take a vaccine. We have to trust all the research and all the health funding and efforts that have done in the entire world and in Egypt. We have to trust those who have produced the vaccine, and especially, just look at a country like the US, for example. I think more than 100 million people are fully vaccinated now.
Yes.
So if something would have happened, we can see it, you know, any rare events, even we can see them with these large numbers.
Yes.
Yeah, I hope I didn't go too.
So, sir, you are calling on all the people, encouraging them to take the vaccine.
Yeah, definitely.
It's very important.
Definitely, yes. I will try. It's a
because
blessing that we have a vaccine.
That the disease could be spread also.
Yes, and at some point, hopefully, we are in a race with the virus. Okay?
Yes.
At some point, we can win the race. We can have more people vaccinated.
Yes.
To the extent that the virus will not
spread.
It will not find anybody to infect.
That's
or, as you mentioned in the start of the episode, so the virus is also it's clever. You know, the virus replicates all the time. It's very quick to replicate, and every time the virus will divide and replicate and spread, it will change a little bit of its shape, which is natural for any living system, you know, any biological system.
Yes.
So at some point, the virus also may reach a stage where it is resistant to the vaccine. We don't want to reach this stage. Hopefully, we will not reach this stage. So we want to win the battle against the virus by taking vaccines faster than the ability of the virus to mutate.
So also after the vaccine, what's your advice for the people in Egypt to raise immunity and take also precautionary measures?
Well, the advice, so the general advice for general immunity are always the same: sleep well, eat different types of food, not one specific type.
Immunity.
Well, just different types of food: vegetables, fruits, a lot of vitamin C and vitamin. Most of the vitamins are natural, so we don't really need to take them as medicine. But the other advice, we have to still be cautious. We have to still wear the masks when there is crowding. We have to still keep some distancing. I know we have been very tired after almost 2 years now, but it's really important even after the vaccine. So if for example you are in a closed place with 4 people who are fully vaccinated, maybe if you're all fully vaccinated, it could be okay not to wear a mask. But if just one person is not fully vaccinated, and I am vaccinated, I could carry the virus without being sick at all and infect that person. So not just for me, but for that person. It's still important to not very strictly, not push ourselves too hard, but at least do the minimal physical distancing, masking until, again, my other recommendation, which actually, as you mentioned, I was a professor in pharmacy, College of Pharmacy, Cairo University, and lately I started working at the Children's Cancer Hospital. But the last thing I did when I was in Faculty of Pharmacy with the authorities there, the dean and the vice dean, we are now having testing capabilities for the students. And this is important in many countries too, and I encourage it in many places, workplaces. I encourage everybody to have regular testing. There is the PCR testing, which is a bit not as easy, but there is also a rapid test. It's very important. So
but
what
the
will
PCR is accurate?
Yeah, of course. It's very accurate. So what is, it's actually too accurate. It's very sensitive. But what is really important to end the pandemic, in my opinion, is take vaccines and do testing regularly. And we cannot, nobody can afford all PCR testing. So I encourage all workplaces to get the rapid test for their employees at least once a week or once a month even. Just make sure of random testing, because if you detect some early case, it's very good. First of all, it's very easy to treat when it's in the first 2 days.
Yes.
And not very easy, but much easier than before, because now we have, there are medicines, there are monoclonal antibodies available and will be more available in Egypt soon. There are better ways if you detect the virus early. If the virus and the disease exceeds 1 week, it's just very risky. As we all know, the patient can stay in the hospital for many months, and there is a risk of death. So vaccinate as much as possible, test as much as possible, and I hope we can get rid of this nightmare soon.
We hope so. Doctor, concerning the mutation or the transformation of the COVID-19 to a Delta, could you give us an idea about this?
So yeah, this is my personal opinion, and I am I stand by it very much. I think the Delta story has been very, very much exaggerated in the international press. The virus will always mutate all the time, all the years. As long as there is a virus, it will keep mutating.
So this is normal that it mutates?
It is normal. It will always mutate. Yes. It will mutate faster if it replicates faster. So if 10 people are sick, the virus will mutate, let's say, 15 times. If 1,000 people are sick, the virus will mutate 100, 500 times, and so on. So we shouldn't give the virus a chance to mutate. The virus will mutate every time it will replicate in our body or move from person to person. One of these mutations was very specific, so they started calling the mutation alpha, beta, gamma, and delta. So the alpha mutation is the one that spread initially in England, and they made a big noise out of it, and now it's a minor mutation. Now the delta is, people say it's more infectious. If the virus is more infectious or spreads faster and you're wearing a mask, it won't matter. So delta is definitely a more adapted virus to humans. The virus started in 2020, coming from a bat to humans. It was still finding its way. Now the virus is much more fit. It's much better at replicating in humans. That's what the Delta variant is. However, if we take the same precautions, the vaccines are still capable of stopping the Delta variant. They are better at, so the vaccines are perfect at stopping the initial virus, which is, we call it the Wuhan virus that came from China. But that was isolated in China, to be accurate. But even the Delta variant, most studies have shown that the vaccine is still effective at least 70 or 80% at stopping this. And if somebody gets the infection, it's more like common cold if it's after vaccination. However, there will be another variant and another variant. So as far as we know, also there is no evidence that the Delta variant has spread in Egypt, but it could spread, and they may be a Z variant or X or Y. So we should always be prepared for new variants, and the only way to stop this is to stop infecting each other, which means to take the same precautions and take vaccines.
Yes.
So I hope, I said like 100 times today, you should take vaccines.
Doctor, can we say, that the Delta is a mild stage of coronavirus?
No, there is.
What started, as you said, Wuhan?
So the Delta is just, the only thing that can be said about it scientifically, it's a virus that is more adapted to humans. It has lived with humans, so the virus has been with humans for 20 months now. So the virus knows better how to replicate in the human body.
Yes.
That's all we can say about the Delta variant. Some studies say it's more transmissible, which means, for example, if we are in a crowded room and we're not wearing masks, the Delta variant will spread faster.
Yes.
But if we are wearing masks, if we are not close to each other,
it is the same.
This, regarding the symptoms, it's really, really depending on each individual immune response. So it's very hard now to say if the Delta, and I want to tell everybody also the Delta is no longer one virus. So when it started in India, they called it the Delta variant. Now there is Delta 1, Delta 2, because it will keep changing.
Keep going on.
Every virus will spread and will keep, it's the same as somebody will go to a new island and get married and have children and cousins and grandchildren, and the children will have their cousins and so on. It's a family of viruses that will spread. So the only way to stop the variants is to stop the virus. by not infecting each other.
So, how do we have to take the vaccine each year, every year,
So
or what?
this is another thing. Thank you.
It's once
this is another important question.
in a lifetime.
We have to understand there is a science factor and there is a business factor.
Yes.
So to be fully honest, what I think all the big companies who produce the vaccines, they want us to take it every every 6 months or every year, and they are pushing for that. However, for example, the American Centers for Disease Control, the CDC, and many scientists think we definitely may need a third dose, but not so soon.
Yes.
We need people to take the first and second dose all over the world first. Will we need it every year? It depends if we can eliminate the virus or not. And if not, then I think the better vaccine maybe in next year will be like similar to the influenza vaccine. It will be a new version of the vaccine that will be designed on the Delta variant, for example, or the variant that will come after Delta. In the US now they are trying to take a third dose of the same vaccine. I don't think this is a good idea. It doesn't have any scientific evidence.
Yes.
Because if you want me to go in a little detail, the immune system has many components. One of them is the antibodies, which are proteins in our blood that stop the virus from infecting. These antibodies go up and down, and they will go up again when we are reinfected. So if we take a vaccine dose in 2 months, it will go up again, but it will go down again. We cannot keep giving doses.
Yes.
But we have memory cells. This is what people forget. We have memory immune cells. This is why we take vaccines. So even if you do an antibody test and you see that your antibodies are going down, it's not a big problem, because if you are exposed to the virus again, the memory cells will wake up and will produce much more antibodies than we need. So we don't really need a new dose every 6 months or every year, but we may need a variant dose next year maybe.
Yes. Doctor, concerning taking a plasma from one person and injecting him once again with the plasma.
Right.
It's not taking from
The plasma-
another person. It's from the same person.
Yeah.
Could you give us an idea of this?
Whether the same person or different person, the plasma therapy is one of the oldest ways to treat infectious diseases, because the plasma has a lot of immune bodies, which are what I call the antibodies. However, the plasma has other things. One of them, for example, you know that if we have a cut in the skin, the plasma will help our wound to heal. It causes a small clot. So this is very risky, because the plasma has antibodies but also has clotting factors.
Yes.
If you give it to somebody who may be at risk of clotting. So the better plasma therapy is approved for some purposes, but the better thing is to isolate just the antibodies from the plasma and give it back to the person. And the even better is to isolate the most active antibodies, and this is what many companies have done now. So one of the best ways to treat COVID-19 now, which I'm sure you heard that the former American president has taken this, is to take purified antibodies or produced antibodies, which are capable of stopping the virus. And many companies are making them now, and I think one of the companies at least we have it available in Egypt, and there will be more and more. And actually one of the best people, immunologists in the world, is Dr. Ali Lebedi. He is from Egypt, but he's now in the US, and he works in his lab on producing a lot of antibodies. I had the privilege of visiting him, so you have to look for his news, because he's the coming star in immunology and in producing these plasma-derived antibodies.
Yes, I thank you very much
You're
for
welcome.
coming
Thank you.
today, for your valuable information, and for simply explaining for us
thank you.
everything about this virus. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure, and I hope we will not
My
hear about
honor,
this
sir.
virus next year.
We hope so. Thank you so much, sir. I really had the honor to host you today. Dr. Ramy Karam, Professor of Microbiology and Immunology, Cairo University, and 57357 Children's Cancer Hospital. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for following me, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Amal Mukhtar. I leave you now with my colleague Shireen Adel.